Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report. For the folks who are checking us out live, apologies for the late start. A lot of breaking news happening behind the scenes. Episode 326 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, our regular cast of characters: Gail from Communities Digital News and Falcon Valley Group, Daniel from the Inscriber and For Boxing News. What's going on, lady and gent?
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and court is in session. We are calling everybody to order for the good of the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Some late breaking developments that could have quite the impact on the what is arguably not arguably, but what is the most anticipated fight of 2021. For those who we'll discuss that in a bit. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and website discussing all things boxing. When boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get talked about. To find out all information regarding the show, regarding the podcast, the website is the best place to go to, p4pboxingreport.com. Let me repeat that, p4pboxingreport.com. If you look all over the page, all over the site, particularly the top and the bottom portion of the site, you'll find links to where to find us all over social media, the Twitter page, the Facebook page, the IG page, the still got a Tumblr page. I don't keep up with it as often as I should, but still, you also link to where to find us on YouTube. Links to where you can donate. Got a Cash Me, PayPal donation links. Let donation be the best nation. Tax season, I think today, or no, I think is right around the corner. If not, tax.
No, it's today.
It's today for the final day to pay up your taxes. So whenever you get your refunds, for those who are taxing, file your taxes today. If you have $1, $2, $5 to spare, please shoot some coins. It would be greatly appreciated if you shoot some coins to Pound for Pound Box Report. It will help the overall production of the podcast, of the show, particularly behind the scenes. Last but certainly not least, online coaching page. I am an online coach for Beachbody. Please check out Beachbody on Demand. If you're looking to get yourself in shape for the summer, or if you're looking for the summer to really test yourself fitness-wise, take it up to the next level, please check out Beachbody on Demand. They got all kinds of programs to suit and cater to all your physical, personal goals, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's cardio, whether it's hits, anything and everything in between, be it the 6 weeks of the work, the new 645 workout program that's set to hit later on this summer/fall, the OP90X and Insanity Asylum series, the Morning Meltdown for those who like to get their work in the morning, Pio and Bar Blend, which the ladies particularly like, or the boxing base program, 10 rounds. 10 rounds is a boxing 6-week boxing program that includes boxing exercises for cardio as well as weightlifting. So please check out Beachbody on Demand. Also, you can check out the 2-week trial. What that is, for 2 weeks, you get free access to Beachbody on Demand, all programs in between. So please take advantage of that. You can find that on my coaching link on Pound for Pound Box Report website. And if you want to email us, you can do so at p4pboxing@p4pboxingreport.com. Going to be a short show this evening. Let's get things started by taking a trek out to what I still like to call StubHub. I'm going to keep calling it StubHub. I know it's a new name, but for fans who've been around for a while, it's still StubHub. And let's go to the junior featherweight division, or super bantamweight, depending on your liking. 122 pounds. A quote unquote unification bout, even though technically it's really not, between WBC 122-pound champion Luis Nery, WBA regular champion Brendan Figuroa. They duked it out. And last week, Gail, I mentioned that if Nery didn't bring his A game, he could be in some trouble. The night of the fight on Boxing Twitter, I mentioned that if Nery was not in supreme shape, because I was watching the fight once I finally got home from work, I said that if Nery was not in shape, he was going to be in real trouble. And pretty much turned out to be that way. After Nery got some success early, it was a case of not just physical size of Figueroa Gil. To me, it was also about his mental strength. Uh, you could see himself warming up. You could see himself getting into the fight. Uh, the emphasis on the body of Nery, and he started to slowly but surely break Nery down. Finished him off in the seventh round with a beautiful left uppercut to the solar plexus. Nery went down and stayed down. I know they took him to the hospital for precaution after the fight. For hardcore fans, this was thoroughly enjoyed, given the controversy surrounding Nery for really the past 3 4 years now, given his issues with weight. But for Figueroa, career best win. He put it all together in this fight, and yeah, dare I say, he's elite now at 122 pounds.
Yes, he is. Nery proved that his problem is discipline in this fight. He wasn't in the kind of condition that Figueroa was, and it began to show. He could only hide it so long. I'm sure what he hoped for is to blast out of the gate, come at the youngster, use his skills, use his experience, and either scare him backward or end the fight early. Well, neither one of them happened. And Figueroa, his work rate is, I believe, the CompuBox record for the division right now. Punch rate per round average is his. He is a gym rat. He's in phenomenal condition. He's not that much younger than Nery. You know, I am tempted always to think of Nery as an older, experienced fighter. He's not. He's 26 years old. He should not be gassing out in a fight. But his conditioning isn't the greatest. The weight issues to me are a work ethic issue. Yeah, it's easy to, as you age, up, that you have trouble making weight. And the spread between the lower weight divisions isn't very much. So we're talking from 118 to 122. Doesn't sound like a lot. As someone who's smaller than that, I can tell you a couple of pounds is a big difference. Big difference. And for whatever reason, Nery has just been battling the scale, battling his nature. He couldn't hang at the Reynoso Canelo compound, went back to his old trainer. It just didn't apparently serve him very well. And Figueroa clearly wanted it more. He kept coming at him. He kept coming at him. And certainly Nery won the early rounds of the fight. But that doesn't matter. The scorecards, whether Nery was ahead or not at the time of the stoppage, doesn't matter. Figueroa put in the effort, put in the work, kept coming, and he finally got the better of Nery. Trainer Joel Diaz in Figueroa's corner told him before the seventh round, he's gassing out, go after him. He's going after him. And boy, Figueroa did just that. He delivered off a few feints and a right hook, an absolutely sensational shot to deliver, very much up under the rib cage solar plexus area. And it was a classic body shot reaction by Nery. He got hit. In fact, it happened so quickly in real time. I'm sure a lot of observers missed exactly what punch it was that dropped Nery so hard. On replay, you could see Figueroa delivering that dig, kind of that 45-degree uppercut. It's the year of the uppercut, guys. I mean, a long-forgotten punch and a favorite of mine is getting a lot of love. And the more it works, the more guys are using it, and the more it works. And I'm all about it. The minute Nery dropped the canvas, we knew he wasn't getting up. So, yes, it was being called a unification. You're absolutely right, Michael. The real champion is not Brandon Figueroa. It's the super champion, Akhmadaliev. Nevertheless, Figueroa picks up the legit WBC belt, which is the one every red-blooded Mexican and Mexican-American fighter wants. So he's now got that belt, and he's got a date on September 11th was Stephen Cool Boy Steph Fulton, who was there observing, who enjoyed himself, got in the ring for a little bit of good-natured banter, and stole Brandon Figueroa's hat and gave it right back. That's a fight to look forward to. That should be a lot of fun. I predicted that Figueroa would win. I thought it would take him longer. I predicted a 10th round or later attrition type TKO stoppage.
Wait a second, I'm having some technical issues. Keep the conversation going, Daniel.
Oh, okay. I said we're having some technical issues, but I'll go jump into this. Gail is right when it comes into saying that there's a lot of a conditioning issue, but to me, it's also an issue of the fact that looking at everything that we see, Luis Nery is a bantamweight.
I would say keep the conversation going, Daniel. Continue on with the fight. I'm having a little bit of technical issues on my end.
I'm gonna
Figueroa
keep going.
and his stoppage win over Nery, please.
Yeah, like I said, my start has always been, unfortunately, that this fight proves to me that Nery is a bantamweight. Unfortunately, and
an undisciplined one.
Yes,
unfortunately, yeah.
And that's the bad part of it, because all of the punches that he's thrown, all of the punches that would normally rock you, Figueroa was completely taking them. And you can tell, even as this fight was going along, which was a really good fight, it was a phone booth type of fight with body punches being the main focus of this. The problem, unfortunately, was that Nery was not the stronger fighter in this. And when you have somebody that is just as focused as you are in the body attack, the way Figueroa was, you're gonna wear out. And that last punch was picture perfect left hook to the liver area. And it's bad. Yeah, we mentioned it was bad enough that Nery had to go to the hospital afterwards. But for all of that, Brandon Figueroa came in with a perfect game plan. Not only attack Nery's body, but when you can, make sure that you use your height, you use your reach, make sure that he misses and leaves himself open for counters, which is exactly what Nery did. Going back to
Figueroa crowded him though a little bit more than I would have expected. You know, he didn't necessarily need to brawl him as much as he did. I mean, no complaints here. And I guarantee you none of the fans would complain at StubHub in Carson. Yeah, it's StubHub. That is exactly the kind of fight that plays well there. Everybody knows its reputation. You're just almost compelled to fight that way. And for Figueroa, didn't hurt him one bit. He isn't going to be able to get away with that in his next fight with Fulton.
Now that's going to be that is going to be a very, very interesting fight, because right now, like we mentioned it, there's a lot of divisions that are pretty close to being fully unified right now. And guess what? 122 pounds after September 11th is going to become one of them. They're going to have only 2 champions after this. And that's going to be very, very telling, because we know Fulton's ready. He showed it from the last fight. He's ready. Brandon has shown in this fight that he's ready. So, as much as like you have to look in Nery, he has to pretty much rebuild. He definitely has to think about, I have to move down in weight and I have to keep it that way. But for Brandon, this was his star-making moment, main event, showtime. And when we talked about last week, who was the more important person to focus on, and I thought Nery was going to be it, but Brandon showed improved. And like I said, good on to the kid. In many ways, like at least in spirit, he avenged his brother. Who fell.
I believe I'm back now.
You are back.
Both Figueroa and Fulton were interviewed by Showtime after the fight. Both said they're looking forward to it. Didn't like that little thing he did with the hat. It's kind of corny to me, but the most important thing is that the two are fighting uh, based on style, particularly the style that Fulton chooses to employ. Could be a very good fighter. If I was him in his camp, I would suggest he box because fighting against Figueroa, he's a guy who's in the fight with Nery, he showed that he likes to taste power, right? And that's the problem with Nery. That was his problem. He may have gotten his attention early, but once Figueroa tasted the power and felt that he could deal with it, it was pretty much over because he slowly build and began to swarm, attack, and ultimately overwhelm, and in a sense, kind of made Nery quit because he didn't want any, and he showed signs that he was wilting badly, physical and mental, even before the knockdown. Right, the vigor was not there. The snap was not there anymore. So kudos to Figueroa. And yeah, September 11th, him and Stephen or Cool Boy Steph, I should say. Let's get it on. I can't wait. Let's move on to the undercard. I go to you, Daniel, and the return of Danny Roman. Roman, who was a former unified champion at 122 pounds, lost to MJ Akmadaliev last year. He's back. Uh, I can't. I'm his name. The name of his opponent escapes me, but I remember seeing the fight. Right. Um,
That would be Ricardo Espinoza.
there you go. Very, very solid, Daniel. I like the way that Roman boxed throughout. That uppercut was savage throughout, and yeah, he's right back in the mix. He just like Figueroa is a major player at 122. So is Roman, and he showed why against Espinoza Saturday night.
Danny Roman did what he needed to do against Espinoza. That uppercut throughout the fight was a thing of beauty. He showed that it was going to be a very, very tough argument to dismiss him from the picture because he's technically right now the WBC mandatory. If it wasn't for the fact that this fight was already set in stone for September 11th, we'd be talking about Figueroa versus Roman next. And you have to make sure that probably you can put him in the same realm as Ronnie Rios in many ways, like fighters that, yes, their records aren't exactly pretty, and in today's stage, but they're tough out. You have to beat them to take them out of the title pictures in their respective divisions. So that is very, very telling when it comes to Roman. You know he's motivated. You know that he wants the big fights, how close he was to getting some fights, particularly like I mentioned, the Ray Vargas fight when he was WBA champ. That was the fight people wanted to see before Vargas moved up to featherweight. And now he's like, say, he's going to be very close, and he has all the right in the world now to face the Fulton Figueroa winner, and deservedly so.
What we all have to remember is that Roman's loss to Akhmadaliev was razor thin majority decision. If there was ever a call for a rematch, this is it. Possible that it could happen. I think it will happen. I don't think it will happen next. There's some other young talent that might be make good foe for Roman. Aleem, to me, is the name that comes up as a possible fight. What I love is that these guys are all willing to get it on, engage, fight each other. That's why the division is so exciting and so good. Daniel, you're so right to mention Ronnie Rios. And he and Roman have both come up in the Southern California club scene. You know, most of Roman's losses, with the exception of Akhmadaliev, are all way back, and he's fighting 4 and 6 round fights in Southern California, just grinding it out against dozens and dozens of guys that are out here working in the gyms. They get work as sparring partners. They go fight in Mexico and Baja. or elsewhere as opponents, they stay busy, they stay hungry. And several dozen of them eventually rise up, and of those, a handful emerge finally. But they are battle tested. And that is why they have accomplishments. And you see, well, oh gosh, they've lost 2 or 3 fights, 4 fights. Means nothing. Means nothing. Have we not learned, boxing fans, that our sister sport over in MMA is thriving and no one gives a damn about how many losses are on a guy's record? If the fights, the matchups are compelling and the performances are good, doesn't matter. Between two really talented athletes, somebody's going to lose. That's how it goes. So Ramon is right up there at the elite of the division. He deserves another title shot. He may just need to cool his heels for a little while. But that doesn't mean no fights. It means he has to wait his turn in line for a title fight. But I guarantee you he'll be back in the ring to stay sharp.
I agree on all fronts. I don't know where Roman will go in terms of his next fight. In the post-fight interview, he said he wanted the winner of Nery and Figuroa, but of course we now know that we knew beforehand the winner of that fight is going to fight Fulton. I don't know if he'll fight MJ anytime soon because I'm hearing that the WBA is working behind the scenes to try to get MJ fight a mandatory title defense according their mandatory challenger at 122 pounds. But yeah, he's right in there. He's right in the mix. He can fight with anybody. He belongs with anybody at the top at super bantamweight. And he took a while. He took some time off before this fight, right? To your point, Gail, I hope he stays active because he can fight. He's entertaining. He puts on good action, and fans like him. You know, fans who see him fight, they like the way he fights. So let's see where he goes from there. I want to read a couple comments from the chat here. Shout out to my UK brother, EJ Boxing Live. He's listening live right now from the UK. We'll get to your question about Wilder Fury 3 in a bit. I'll give another shout out to Ivan DC, who says in the chat, I'm going to put it here public again. In terms of the Nery fight, he says Nery's lack of conditioning is the reason he moved up to 122. It's not because he naturally outgrew bantamweight. Now we're sure why he left the Canelo team. Too much discipline for him. I completely agree. He was with Eddie Reynoso, decided to leave and go back to his original trainer, and that surely didn't work for the fight against Figueroa. Ivan also says that the fighter with the best conditioning won on Saturday. I absolutely agree 100%. He also says in terms of Daniel Ramon has a great boxing style, skill-wise, one of the best at 122, but he lacks punching power. Unfortunately, I don't see him intimidating the top guys at 122 with his punching power. Doesn't need to. Long as you can keep guys honest, that's all you need. His activity, his work rate, his will, and that combined with his low-key, subtle skill set, that is what gets him over. That proved the difference when he fought TJ Doheny to unify the title. I think that was in 2018, I believe it was, either 2018 or 2019. That's that will and that conditioning and that stick-to-itiveness is what brought him back from an early deficit against Akhmadaliev, and that will carry him over against a lot of guys at 122 pounds. So he's a guy who brings a little bit of everything to the table, with the exception of the big one-punch power. But he has enough power to keep guys honest. And if you don't pay attention, he has enough power to put you on your butt. So it's the combined assets of Roman and what makes him the fighter that he is. Let's move over to the UK, Gail, or Daniel, whoever wants to touch on this fight, because I want to get to the question that EJ Boxing Live left for us in the chat. Joshua Buatsi, very, very talented prospect / emerging contender at 75 pounds, fought a guy by the name of Dos Santos, knocked him out in 4. The finish was a deadly one-punch right hand to the chin that put Dos Santos down and out. Simple question for whoever wants to touch it. It's obvious that Buatsi, the time is now for him to step up in competition. He's ranked very high by the WBA at 175 pounds. WBA lightweight champion, super champion being Dmitry Bivol. How soon do you think he is? How can I put this? Do you think he's ready for Bivol right now? If not, how many fights do you think he needs in order to step into the ring with the likes of the uber talented Dmitry Bivol?
I see the matchup in a very similar way and a very similar skill differential to when Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather. Canelo wasn't quite ready, but he tackled it, he challenged himself, and the amount of learning that occurred has benefited him the rest of his career. I think something very similar would happen to Buatsi. Dmitry Bivol is a technician. He's a tough out. He knows exactly what he needs to do to win, and he can almost always call upon any of the tools in his toolkit to do it. I think Buatsi would have problems with him. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea. So if he's got the opportunity and I'm his team, he need to understand, what the risk is, the risk of a loss. But it's like putting an investment away and watching it grow. I think that's exactly what would happen. On the other hand, what he could do is try himself against one of the many, many gatekeepers out there. I'm thinking about a Sullivan Barrera type of guy. How do you do against somebody like that? I wouldn't want to see him necessarily tackle someone like Isaac Chilemba, who tends to mess people up because he's so tricky without the payoff of, a belt if you fight Bivol. But whatever he does, it's Buatsi's time to step up in competition. He wasn't intended as the main event. The main event was supposed to be a unification fight between Terry Harper and Hyun Choi May. Harper injured her hand in sparring. What a disappointment. So we'll see that fight another day. So Buatsi and Dos Santos were moved up to the main event versus canceling the card. So I appreciate that was done so that everybody on the card could get their opportunity. To me, the most impressive thing of the whole fight, Dos Santos had no business being in there. It was a great opportunity for him. He took it. He was ambitious, but his ambitions, way outweighed his skills. And Buatsi caught him with a picture perfect, look it up in the boxing textbook, right to the chin check, just boom, out cold. The concern, the sportsmanship, the caring that Buatsi showed to Dos Santos and his camp, he was genuinely worried about his well-being. And when Dos Santos became very emotional about the loss, and emotional, I'm sure, because it was a bit humiliating. The one that comforted him was the man who did it, Buatsi. He also went back to the dressing room after the fight and talked to him and talked to his trainer and said, you need to take care of him. Good for him. There are a lot of crazy actors in boxing, but there are a lot of good, warm, caring, upstanding guys, and Buatsi's one of them.
Very, very sincere gesture on the part of Buatsi. I'll go to you, Daniel, quickly. They've talked about Buatsi stepping up to fight Callum Johnson, former world title challenger Callum Johnson, who put Bertzebiev down in a fight a couple of years ago, right?
Yes.
Based on my observation, I think that they could take that fight, fine. I just think that Buatsi is a level above Johnson, even though he's really kind of been untested at this point.
But that's
we
the point.
mentioned Bival. We mentioned Bival, right? Buatsi has recently brought Virgil Hunter into the camp. After the fight, Hearn said that yes, he's very talented, but he seems to imply that they want to kind of slow, not rush him into the likes of that fight against Bival. Um, if you were handling him, Daniel, what would you do?
I would look at a fight like something like that, Callum Johnson or Sullivan Barrera, just try to bring it back onto at heavyweight because he's right now currently a super middleweight. The problem with this fight is, unfortunately, Buatsi did what he did, but it doesn't do any favors for him. Dos Santos never fought in the 10 rounder before that fight, and he never fought outside of France before that fight. It wasn't exactly the best challenge out there for him. And granted, yeah, this was not supposed to be a main event. This was supposed to be just a showcase bout for Buatsi. But it doesn't really show anything in that area because when you look at the skill set level, I wouldn't call it as wide as Canelo's, like 2012 Canelo versus Floyd, when it's him versus Bivol, but it is pretty wide right now. And Bivol, like I said, he's miles ahead right now. So why not get to somebody that's going to test your chance to see, not only get some more rounds in, but see if you can test your chin. And somebody like Callum Johnson will do that. Somebody like Sullivan Barrera will do that. I said Chalema will probably be a decent challenge. I disagree with Gail right there because it's an interesting challenge because then you can see how you can handle an awkward style. Because we saw how Bibble handled Chalema. It wasn't exactly the most beautiful fight you're ever going to see because Chalema makes things a little bit difficult, but at the same time, he makes you work for the victory. And that's some of the things that Buatsi needs. So those fights are fine. I don't think he'll probably be world championship ready until probably at least mid 2022 at this stage.
Yeah, that's I have no pushback against that. Uber talented. It's time for him to step up. Uh, because of his rankings, will he be brushed by outside forces to fight Bivol? I hope not. I think Eddie Hearn has it more in tune. He says while he's good, let's put him in a fight that earns him the right to fight the likes of a Bivol, and so onward and upward into more into hopefully tougher tests for the talented Buatsi. Let's get to the news and answer the question that EJ has talked about, mentioned earlier in the chat. His question was, and I'll just pose it right here: is Wilder Fury 3 happening? The reason he asked that, late breaking news as of this live recording here on May 17th. Last week we've been last week and in previous episodes we've talked about the ongoing negotiations between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. Um, as of late last week, the prevailing thing was that a deal has been made, uh, has been made and all but signed for August the 14th in Dubai. Um, Eddie Hearn basically said that the deal is done, just ironing out some final details. Um, Yesterday, Tyson Fury dropped a video in which he said that the fight has been agreed on and it's a done deal. There were reports about the finances behind the scenes where basically they're going to split $150 million purse, each man earning 75 million, right? And then late this afternoon, and I wrote about this for Three Kings Boxing. Shout out to the Three Kings Boxing crew, the man behind Three Kings Boxing 2K, Bo, head of media relations, head writer Bakari, senior writers Big Cool, and yours truly, editor Red. I saw a report, 2K. We kind of saw it at the same time. I was going back and forth with him on the phone. And in short, Wilder, while these negotiations have been happening, Wilder went to arbitration trying to block the fight. Well, um, arbitrator, let me get his name right, Daniel Weinstein, uh, today ruled in favor of Wilder. Um, Said that Fury is contractually obligated to fight Wilder. For those who don't know, the two were Fury and Wilder were supposed to fight a trilogy first June of last year, got pushed back to the due to the COVID pandemic. They tried to renegotiate for December of last year. Those negotiations fell through. Team Fury got fed up after Joshua's win over Pulev in December 5th. Fury, Fury's camp, Aram and everybody included, um, Joshua's camp and Hearn, they began hammering out details, trying to hammer out a deal. It looked like it was going to be on the 14th, but Weinstein today said that Fury is obligated to fight Wilder, and the fight must happen by September 15th. Your reaction to that, Gail, and as also since I wrote about this with Three Kings, you can find it on threekingsboxing.com. As I said, there's been even more developments on that. Please provide the extra details regarding the news that's had fight fans, social media particularly, buzzing.
This was a civil lawsuit arguing about the provisions in the contract for Wilder Fury 2. Wilder's legal team argued that the rematch clause was clearly in place and needed to be enforced. And a judge agreed. It's as simple as that. What he did agree to, however, in addition to setting the September 15th date, was open it up to some kind of alternate enforcement arrangement as long as the two parties could agree. That's always true in contract negotiations. It's always true. If the parties involved agree to a substitute arrangement that they are both comfortable with, fine. Contract disputes happen when the two parties disagree, no matter what's on paper. But those pieces of paper are created by human beings. So here we are. Wilder is entitled to demand his fight. The Fury Top Rank camp can offer an alternative, can discuss a step aside, for example. They're getting a lot of money, as was announced over the weekend from the Saudi government. This is something we've been hearing about for a long time. Well, they may need to siphon off a nice chunk of that to satisfy Deontay Wilder's claim and push the fight off perhaps after the Fury Joshua fight. I think they'd be willing to give up a significant chunk of money to not put that at risk. Both camps have been uncharacteristically quiet about this ruling. That tells me they're talking behind the scenes and not to us. So there's two interesting dates coming up. Tomorrow morning is the Taylor versus Ramirez media news conference online. Bob Arum almost always appears on those calls. If he doesn't, and sometimes even if he does, Todd Buff is also usually there, his stepson, who is the president of the company. I imagine that they're anticipating that the Bob father will be asked about this, and he never dodges a question. So I think they'll make a statement if there is going to be one tomorrow. Top Rank is also staging a major fight. The reason for the news conference on Saturday, come on, folks. It's in Las Vegas. Tyson Fury is more or less a full-time resident and trains in Las Vegas. Don't we all think that the big reveal was going to be scheduled to happen Saturday? So they're going to need to scramble and figure out what's going on. And all of a sudden, after all these months of sort of not having a sense of urgency to settle this, now suddenly tick-tock, the clock is sprinting for the potential August fight, and they're going to have to figure something out fast. But you know what? I've taught college students for quite a long time now. And in 10 years of teaching both graduates and undergraduates, I'll tell you what, there is nothing like a deadline and the thought of a failing grade to motivate students. There is nothing like a lot of money at stake and a big fight to motivate everybody to get their act together.
What say you about all of this, Daniel?
In some points, I agree with Gail. Some points, I vehemently disagree. Because I've said it myself. How many times have I said this? That as long as the arbitration case is still out there, still open, there was a chance this was going to happen. So, Top Rank, Matchroom, everybody had to try to get their ducks in a row because this was looming. This thing was always going to be looming no matter what. And interestingly enough, when it seems like it was finally set to happen, the hammer dropped. Now, contractually, said I completely understand why the arbitrator ruled the way he did, because unfortunately the pandemic threw everything out of whack. All of the normal timetables, all of the normal things that you can use to get out of a contract were thrown out the window because of the pandemic. And that's the main thing that gave Wilder this legal victory. Now, the interesting part to me, and this is the part where I disagree with Gail, is I do not think Deontay Wilder is going to take any step-aside money at all. To me, if Deontay Wilder was going to take step-aside money, he would have done so already, and this arbitration would have been quietly shelved, quietly dismissed. Because for as much as we talk about Deontay Wilder, like the team around him, as far as like his boxing team around him, which now includes Malik Scott as his new trainer, we also know that the legal team behind them ain't exactly a group of dummies. And they probably are going to tell Wilder this situation, because it's probably the truest situation out there. You cannot take any step-aside money because right now there's no guarantee that they'll actually honor anything. Put it with you, because let's say you try to take this money and then you try to push Joshua Fury in this. Number one, you put this case for so long against Tyson Fury. From a public relations standpoint, now you're saying like, oh, now you're just ducking Fury. You're just in it for the money where you could have easily settled for something like this a long time ago. But you pushed it to this route. Yes, they could throw more money at him, but I don't think that's going to be the picture of the case. He wouldn't be training. He wouldn't need people in videos like this if it was a situation where he's just sitting at home just waiting for the check to come. And then there's also the part that I think the team knows he's going to get, Wilder's team knows he probably would get the runaround if he takes step-aside money and he lets Joshua Fury happen. Because let's say if it does happen and Joshua wins, Eddie Hearn could easily just say, look, Deontay, Joshua has the undisputed title right now. He has to do a lot of mandatories. I know you were a WBC champion. Well, to put yourself in the WBC category, why don't you fight Dillian White, the guy that I've been trying to make you fight the whole time instead of Anthony Joshua? If it's Fury that wins, Bob Arum will probably just say that he doesn't exist, because Bob does not want to deal with Al Heyman again when it comes to this situation, the fight like this, because of everything that's been happening. Like I said, that's why my belief is they're not going to take any step-aside money And if there's any plans, anything at all where they're going to pull anything, there's probably then a flight that's being booked from Tuscaloosa to Las Vegas right now to make sure that it doesn't happen. So, at least in my opinion, whether people like it or not, we're not staring at Joshua Fury anymore. We're staring at Fury Wilder 3. And quite frankly, through all this, it should have happened anyway. Because if you're Fury's camp, you should have just taken it, beat Wilder like you believe you can, and just move on. Because now you're going to have to train. You're going to have to completely change your game plan. Because you're going to fight in one style, once again, to fight in the other style. And once again, you're put into a situation where the fight that you want to get, you're probably not going to see it till next year. And it'll likely now have less prestige because this now gives the WBO the out to force the mandatory, and more than likely, by the time you have the Fury Joshua talk happen, or even for Fury, not even Fury Joshua talk happen, the worst case scenario that's going to happen from all this, folks, is Wilder beats Fury in the third fight, knocks him out. Joshua is either stripped of the WBO title or he loses to Alexander Usyk. And then instead of Joshua Fury, we get Wilder Usyk. In a situation where I think ultimately the winner is going to be Usyk.
Do you? Bottom line here, Daniel said that he doesn't think that Wilder will take step aside money. Do you agree, Gail?
I'll tell you, I think everybody has a price. I think everyone has a price. I think it will be a price that hurts. I think he went through with this lawsuit to make a point. He wanted a victory. He didn't get his victory in the ring. He sure as hell got his victory in court today. That might have really been the point. And if there is enough money, somebody's going to pay you a ton of money to simply cool your heels. You know, I wouldn't take the money unless I saw some kind of ironclad. Again, these are contracts. They're written on paper by people. But I would want some kind of assurance that I'd get a fight end of the year, beginning of next year. The only possible benefit of this whole thing, if Wilder does press the issue and a rematch is forced, perhaps what happens is the fight relocates to where it should be, Wembley Stadium, in front of a bunch of screaming British fans who deserve to see this matchup on their home soil. So maybe all the Saudi money ends up going into Wilder's pocket. Maybe they've got to just, table that arrangement, get this mandatory rematch over, and table their fight until they can be in the UK next year sometime. That would be the only positive outcome of this whole thing. I have to admit to being, pun intended, wildly entertained by this whole mess, because if the Fury camp and Top Rank and the Wilder camp, Matchroom and Frank Warren, or Wilder, Joshua camp, hadn't sat on their hands and dragged their feet all this time, we wouldn't be in this fix. We would have had that fight on the books. Hell, it might have happened already by now. So they have no one to blame but themselves. They should look in the mirror. If they really thought Wilder had a ghost of a chance of getting this ruling, they should have hustled up that fight.
Hopeful that this fight takes place on the what was agreed upon August date. Am I optimistic? No. Um, I I personally think that there's been too much invested over the past almost year now because remember these two agreed to fight each other, agreed in principle to fight each other June of 2020, and South the South is the wrong word. Uh, uh, um, the Dubai the folks in Dubai were already in works on building a stadium for the fight. A lot of money has been invested. A card was being put in place, which, from what I understand, was to include multiple world title bouts. Right. Um, on the one hand, it's been so much put into it. It's too far gone for it to not. It's too much invested for it not to happen. Then again, with this ruling, Wilder could just step in and be an asshole and says, "I don't care what anybody says. I want the fight." Never mind the fact that he hasn't fought since. Never fought. Mine only action we've seen him with any kind of gloves on is footage over the past 2-3 weeks of him and Malik Scott. Um, I would like for him to have a tune-up still, even after all this time, because both the Fury fights expose Wilder, and we just don't know what he is, particularly in the aftermath of the second fight, from a skill standpoint as well as his mental. I don't care how you talk about how tough you are and you're a warrior and all that. Be clear, you got your ass whooped in that second fight. You just don't jump back into it even after a lengthy layoff. So I hope Joshua and Fury happens. I got my fingers crossed, but given this ruling, it's up in the air whether we will see that fight in August or at all in 2021. Stay tuned to Pound for Pound Box Report. Stay tuned to the folks I write for, Three Kings Boxing. Stay tuned to Gail and Daniel as we will provide all further updates on this certainly fluid and evolving situation. Let's move on to preview a fight. One of the fights of the year. If you're a boxing head, you have to be excited about this fight for all the belts, folks, at 140 pounds. WBC, WBO champion Jose Ramirez, IBF, WBA champion Josh Taylor. They're fighting this weekend in Vegas. I'm just going to throw it out there. Whoever wants to grab it first, please do. I have no words because I'm that excited about it. I can't wait.
It's such an under the radar fight, and it's such a shame. This is for the undisputed 140-pound champion, the first one since Terrence Crawford did it. And if you look at any of the odds on any platform from any bookmakers, it is virtually a 50-50 fight. I believe Ramirez is a slight favorite in Las Vegas, but a lot of the boxing world has Taylor as the slight favorite, given his performances, given his opponents. He did beat Regis Prograis, which is it was a very impressive win by Taylor. Both of them have been very active fighters. Unlike the gentleman we've all been talking about, these guys have fought everyone in their division. They've gone for it. They've duked it out. The pandemic has kept them on ice, so they're both going to have a little bit of ring rust. Taylor more than Ramirez, but it's a super even matchup. It has the potential, and they both certainly have the skill set to make it a very tactical, high-level fight. But come on, who are we kidding? They're going to get there in the middle of the ring and let it rip, because they both got the capacity to do that. I think the adrenaline will be flowing. It's going to be in a fairly small venue. The former property of the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas is now the Virgin Hotel complex, including the theater venue which holds full about 2,700 people. I don't think it's going to be seated for quite that many. But sometimes in a small venue with the people that are in attendance, very limited number of fans, the camps and so forth, sometimes when they're right up on top of you, it's a really intense environment. That could be a very good thing for everybody who gets to see this fight. And depending on the time of day you ask me, the day, what I had for my last meal, did I do a workout? I've been changing my mind back and forth about who the win will go to. It's going to be a very tight one and fun for everyone to watch. I hope Top Rank really steps up the promotion this week. They start tomorrow with a, well, as I mentioned earlier, there is a media call scheduled. You should be hearing a lot about that tomorrow morning to see what comes of it. Hopefully these guys will get some more exposure. It's not a pay-per-view either, so that's an enormous benefit. Fans get this fight essentially for, I think it's, I'm not sure if it's on ESPN Plus, I believe it is, but come on, that's a handful of dollars. That is well worth it.
Keys to fight, Daniel. What say you?
This is going to be a very interesting fight because skills-wise, you should favor Taylor. He's the more polished fighter. He's the more refined fighter. But I'm going to look more to Jose Ramirez in this situation, mainly because of where he's fighting, because it's an interesting thing. I'm not going to put him like in the same echelon as like Santos for Terence Crawford, but we mentioned Terence Crawford tends to want to fight in Omaha. Jose Ramirez, we know really just if he had any choice in his life, he would only fight in Fresno, California. And we knew that when this fight was going to be made, Taylor's team made it very, very clear they were never going to fight in Fresno, California. And Ramirez, while still being a skilled fighter, he's one of these fighters that feeds off the crowd. And this is one of the main disappointments of this fight being where it's being held with the capacity of fans that is being held for, is you're not going to get a lot of crowd reaction to it. And not to mention that even with a smaller crowd, a probably good significant amount are going to be UK fans. They're going to come by and support Josh Taylor. That's going to be interesting. But there's also this thing, and this is pretty much talking to people in the UK. People in the UK are a little bit nervous from what I've heard, because there's been this rash lately. We've noticed this of talented, really good UK fighters suddenly losing, specifically to Mexican or Mexican-American fighters recently. We just had a guy like in the recent Matchroom card, highly touted UK fighter out of Belfast. He got the blessing of Carl Frampton. Got rocked in the first round by by somebody that wasn't even gonna be thinking of as a challenger at 130 pounds. Or how about Josh Warrington fighting the UK, losing the way he did to a Mexican fighter? So there is this little fear that maybe this will be another case of a talented, more skilled UK fighter just losing it to a Mexican that just wanted it more. Well, we have to see in this case, because this is technically right now neutral ground. Yes, you're going to have a lot of Mexican fans in this case, but they're not going to. It's not Fresno, California, and like there's going to be a good amount of British crowd ready for Taylor, so it's going to be interesting. I'm going to go with the flavor of the month, maybe. I say Ramirez wins this fight.
Daniel says Ramirez win this fight. What say you, Gail? What's your official prediction?
Oh, I think he's picked Ramirez for all the right reasons. Ramirez is very much a heart fighter. That's not to in any way throw shade on his skills. He's got terrific skills. Taylor does have more ways to beat you. And if Taylor can keep his head on straight, doesn't let the crowd carry Ramirez and give him momentum, I think it's going to be a very similar fight to the Prograis fight. I think Ramirez will be a little more competitive, but it'll be the kind of fight where by Taylor wins by decision by a whisker. If someone told me you got to bet your paycheck on this, I think that's where I'd go. And then in the next breath, we'd all say, and we want to see it again. It was that good. That's the kind of fight I'm hoping to see. I do think Taylor will win it by decision. I think if Ramirez is going to win, it's going to need to be a knockout.
I see Ivan in the chat says he predicts that Ramirez wins by TKO round 9 or 10. I see why you would choose Ramirez as well, Daniel, but I'm going to side with Gail here and go with Taylor. If I did not see Taylor in the way that he performed against Prograis, I may have a different opinion. But in that fight against a Rougarou who himself is skilled, himself can punch, a Rougarou, by the way, who Ramirez did not want to fight. That was the prover for me. That was his test in a big situation. And he showed, right? I'm not going to say with flying colors, but he showed he did enough to win a very, very tough, very, very, it built his resolve, right? It was a true tester, to use a phrase from Larry Merchant in describing Joe Frazier. The toughness that he showed, right? The ability to take a punch from a Rougarou who has power. He went through adversity with the issues of his eyes. He bit down in that fight, right? Plus the skill, plus the southpaw stance, plus the fact that he can move. I know Ramirez is very good at cutting off the ring, but I just think that overall, if everything was even on the table, Taylor is the better fighter by a little bit. And I think he's going to be highly motivated in this fight, as he should, because of the unification bout. I think any concerns about the weight that he has in the past, he's not going to cut any corners in this bout. I'm going with Taylor to win. He's not going to knock him out, but he is going to win by decision. It has to be definitive because he's fighting on enemy's turf. But I think Taylor is that kind of fighter. I'm picking him by decision. Second bout we talked about, we mentioned it last week. That is Jose Zepeda, who, as I mentioned last week, if you want gore, if you want just all out hell in the ring, if you want pure violence, just look at his last fight against Baranchik, candidate for fight of the year. KO of the year in 2020. He returns to the ring to fight Hank Lundy. Gail Daniel, who wants to respond quickly. Your thoughts on his upcoming fight on the undercard of Taylor Ramirez as he's going to fight Hank Lundy. Personally, I think he's going to knock him out. I see Lundy. I'm putting him in Bob Hope cousin category. No hope.
Let's all remember Zepeda's last fight. How can we forget that crazy ass fight with Ivan Baranchik, fight of the year? He has been sidelined since then. So this is his first fight back. Hank Lundy was not Zepeda's original opponent. He was originally supposed to fight Pedro Campa from Mexico, 32-1-1, 21 KOs. For whatever reason, the Nevada State Athletic Commission wouldn't approve Campa as the opponent. So Top Rank had to find a replacement. So instead,
let me stop you right there, Gail. Let me stop you right there, Gail. Is it that the Nevada State Athletic Commission found a reason, or is it a case that Top Rank, given how Zepeda was in such a tough fight last time, was like, okay, We all know the reputations of just unknown fighters from Mexico just springing the upset. Did they not finagle their way in to kind of push this dude aside?
Well, wait a minute. They're the ones that scheduled Campa. Did they have second thoughts? What the hell?
It could have been. They could have saw more fights video of him and like, you never know. I'm just saying.
This is the guy who's fought all but one fight in Mexico. The only exception was a fight in Glendale. And you know what? That might as well be Mexico for all the boxing fans are concerned. He has not faced anybody with a significant name. Probably Abner Lopez was the most notable name on the record. He has been a pro for 10 years. He's 29, classic journeyman Mexican fighter from Sonora. And yeah, you just don't always know what you're getting. Sometimes you think, I'm getting an Uber driver. Sometimes you're getting, Mauricio Lara or Angel Fierro, right? Who beat Alberto Machado. So I think Top Rank was okay with it. I don't know what issue was with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Of course, they were also one of the two commissions who would not let Jaime Munguia fight Gennady Golovkin. So there's that. But come on, and I could buy it, the argument a lot more easily if the replacement wasn't 37-year-old Hank Lundy, 31-8-1, who has 7 more losses and is 8 years older than the original opponent. Now, granted, he's faced a lot better opposition. He's fought Terrence Crawford. He's fought Victor Postol. He's fought Thomas Delorme. He did win his last fight, but that was a year ago in that hotbed of boxing, Delaware. So, come on. What the hell? The only saving grace is, at least on the undercard, very impressive and flashy junior welterweight prospect Elvis Rodriguez has been put on the card. Kenneth Sims has been put on the card with him. That should be a good fight on the undercard. But yeah, the truth is, this is a card where it is all about the main event. So the undercard is just simply buying us time to get there on Saturday night.
Quick word on this, Daniel, or do you basically agree with Gail's assessment about this fight between Zepeda and Lundy?
All I need to say is this. Lundy's a serviceable replacement at this stage of his career, but that's it. Serviceable. It's not a situation where you're going to fear that Zepeda is going to somehow lose or be surprised by a win. At this stage, we know what Hank Lundy is. We know what he's capable of. So,
and we know who Zepeda is. It's a horrible style matchup.
Yeah.
Let's invoke the styles make fights. Oh my God, this is a mess. You're much better off with a sturdy, tested opponent from Mexico who just does not sit down between fights. And that's who they had.
Yeah. Maybe I'm conspiratorial, but in the end, I just think that
it's
Zepeda.
It's boxing, and all conspiracy theories are worth considering.
Yeah, even despite the tough fight that he had against Baranchik, and his cat was very smart to give him a lot of idle time to rest his body. I think he will have far too much of Hank Lundy, who's not close to the fighter that he once was. And I think we're going to end things on that note. I want to thank everybody who joined us in the YouTube chat. Thank Ivan, DC20. Thank the homie EJ Boxing Live for the comments and the questions. I'll go around the panel here. Begin the show with ladies first. In the show with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News. Let the folks, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk media, let the folks know where they can find you. And pull a plug, give a plug, I should say, to the Falcon Valley Group and explain what that is for folks who do not know.
Well, Falcon Valley Group is my skills that pay the bills. That's my public relations firm based in San Diego. But I want to take my ladies ending the show first to give a shout out to one Gabriela Fundora. Yes, that Fundora family. She is the sister of Sebastian the Towering Inferno Fundora. And yes, she's just about as tall as her brother in proportion. She is a 5'9" tall flyweight. Yes, you heard that. Super flyweight, pardon me. And she won her professional debut Saturday on the StubHub undercard, the Nery Figuroa undercard. She got a 4-round decision. However, she did score a knockdown of her opponent in the second round. Looked good. Her brother was ringside, and they dusted a pizza after the fight was over.
Lord, they make me jealous. Just a bunch of high metabolism family.
Damn, let me tell you, it's amazing. Now I'm actually in a smaller weight division than she is. If I was ranked, I'd be a flyweight. But damn, the woman is 9 inches taller than me and only weighs 3 pounds more. It kicks my ass.
And for those who do not know, you also appear on TMZ Live on a bi-weekly basis. Let the folks know when the next time they can find you there.
Oh, you're just going to have to watch and see what Harvey and Charles are up to. You know, they have had a lot of fun talking about all these celebrity fights. And I'm sure they're going to have something to say about the last spat between Oscar De La Hoya and Dana White. Dana had at both Oscar and Triller. He said Triller was trash. He ripped into the whole concept that is Triller. So Dana White threw yet another gauntlet down on Saturday night after his UFC pay-per-view. All good fun.
And I go to you, Daniel, from the Inscriber and 4Boxing News. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat. For those who want to talk, professional wrestling, and let me just say, rest in power to his name escapes me. Rest in power to New Jack from old school ECW days, who passed away at age 58 last week. Let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me, folks, on Twitter, RAWKZ99. Definitely catch you on there. Once again, also rest in power to New Jack. Like I said, it was kind of a blessing in many ways that he actually got to tell his story at Dark Side of the Ring the year before. So, yeah, that going along. It definitely catch me on, like I said, on Wednesday night. Me and Joe and Francis are going to talk about this. We're definitely going to be talking the Wilder news and previewing next fights coming up because, Jesus, between this and it looks to like every other fight card in the world happening on Father's Day weekend, it's going to be a busy month.
Absolutely. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk music, for those who want to talk fitness, you know what it is with me, Brother JR at Brother JR76 on Twitter. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, the website is the place to go to. P4pboxreport.com. Let me repeat that, P4pboxreport.com on the website. If you look on the top part of the page as well as the bottom portion of the page, you'll find the links to where to follow us all over social media, the Twitter page, the YouTube page, the Facebook IG page, and the Tumblr page for those who are interested. I'm also check out the links to where to donate. Cash Me, PayPal donation links. Let donation be the best nation. Link to an online coaching page. I am an online coach with Beachbody on Demand. Again, you want interested in get your body right for the summer, if you want to take your fitness to the next level, or if you want to take part in my Let's Build Together group challenges, please check out my online coaching page. Or if you want to take advantage of the 2-week free trial, again, Beachbody on Demand offers 2 weeks of free workouts that goes throughout the year, or a 2 week the 2 week trial, excuse me, runs throughout the year. You sign up for that, you get 2 weeks of free access to all programs on Beachbody.demand. Beachbody on demand, excuse me. And last but certainly not least, if you want to email the show, P4P Boxing at P4P Boxing Report. If you like what you heard this evening, please hit that like button on YouTube. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify. 5-star review on iTunes will get read. We'll love to hear some feedback from you. So yeah, we all over everywhere. Every platforms that carry podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, any and everywhere else between. Once again, thanks everybody for joining us in the live chat for their questions and their comments. On the next episode, we will do a recap of the fight for all the belts at 140 pounds between Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor. Recap Zepeda and Hank Lundy. And we will do a preview of Devin Haney, WBC lightweight champion, uh, making the title defense against former multi-divisional champion Jorge Linares. On the undercard of that, Chantel Cameron going to defend her junior welterweight belt against Melissa Hernandez. So we will talk about all those fights. I want to thank Gail from Community Digital News and the Falcon Valley Group, Daniel from For Boxing News and the Inscriber. This has been episode 326 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We will keep you updated on the situation regarding the breaking news that we talked about earlier this evening regarding Fury, Joshua, Deontay Wilder. That will be on the next episode. So yeah, episode 326 is in the books. I am your host, Michael. We will see you next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night. You reap what you sow, Eddie Hearn. Reap what you sow.
Good night, folks.